I'm Catherine Mueller, a postbac in the Ponce Lab in Boston, and this project was done with Mary Burkemper and Dr. Carlos Ponce. Our project looks at how visual information is encoded by the primate ventral stream. Prototype theory suggests we categorize objects by comparing them to an internalized, abstracted average of examples we have experienced, called prototypes. If true, this suggests neurons may encode abstractions of visual features present in the natural world. We theorize the primate visual system learns and encodes these prototypes as combinations of visual attributes useful to object, place, and social perception. We are working to understand both the variations in visual patterns encoded by neurons across the ventral stream, as well as how these patterns relate to the visible world. We recently showed images can be synthesized under the guidance of neurons from the macaque ventral stream using naturalistic image generators and search algorithms in a process termed neuron-guided image synthesis. Simply put, neuron-guided image synthesis is a process in which stimuli can be generated to maximize neuronal responses based on a neuron's previous responses to a set of stimuli. The process begins by collecting responses to random stimuli and feeding them to a genetic algorithm. Then images are generated by a generative network using input vectors created by the genetic algorithm. These new images are displayed in the receptive field of the targeted neuron, and the cycle repeats. After many cycles, a superstimulus is evolved, which we call a prototype. Prototypes have been synthesized in this way from neuronal responses in the primary visual cortex, V4, and inferotemporal cortex of the primate ventral stream. To control for low-level visual statistics, we also generated shuffled prototypes by permuting the input vector of each prototype. Interestingly, evolutions from inferotemporal cortex, or IT, often generated prototypes with visual attributes reminiscent of natural pictures of monkeys, such as fur texture, color, and general shape. You may have guessed that the bottom set of images displays these IT prototypes. On top, prototypes evolved from V1 or the primary visual cortex are displayed. Beneath each prototype are examples of stimuli which we find the prototypes to be reminiscent of. In our 2019 paper, we used neural networks to confirm prototypes contain visual attributes also present in the natural images of monkeys. And in a study by Barden, Zhao, and colleagues, it was found that human visual judgments also corroborated informal perceptions of monkey-like features in the prototypes. But do monkeys also see prototypes as monkey-like? If these prototypes are indeed abstractions of the natural world, then monkeys should also be able to identify conspecific features within them. We used a forced decision task to determine if monkeys perceived animal-like features in IT prototypes compared to shuffled prototypes, and in V1 prototypes compared to their shuffled prototypes. First, we trained the animals to saccade to the images of monkeys over images of wheels, places, or other categories presented on the same screen. The images were created by the generator using natural images as guides. Incorrect choices were penalized and correct choices were rewarded. Once they had achieved a high enough level of accuracy, about 75%, we introduced probe trials featuring a prototype and a shuffled prototype. For these trials, any choice was randomly rewarded 50% of the time. We found that across experiments, IT prototypes were chosen over shuffled prototypes more frequently than V1 prototypes were chosen over their shuffled prototypes. On average, IT prototypes were chosen over their shuffled prototypes about 69% of the time, significantly above chance level at 50%. In contrast, V1 prototypes were chosen at chance level. This shows that monkeys, like humans and computer algorithms, can detect monkey-like features in IT prototypes. Thus, this affirms that IT neurons evolve prototypes which contain more naturalistic and monkey-like features than the prototypes evolved by V1. But does our task show that monkeys are capable of visual abstraction? To test this, we used the same experimental design as before, only using geometric shapes. In the first set of experiments, monkeys were trained to saccade to natural images containing objects with triangular shapes over natural images containing objects with circular shapes. Once minimum accuracy was achieved, probe trials featuring simplified cartoon-like circles and triangles were introduced. We found that monkeys chose simplified triangles more often than circles. We then trained the monkeys to saccade to the opposite category of circular shapes over triangular shapes and found consistent results. The results demonstrate that macaques can abstract features from real-world natural images. These experiments support the judgments by humans and neural networks that IT prototypes contain monkey-like features, as macaques can identify conspecific features in these prototypes. We've also demonstrated that macaques can abstract visual features from real-world natural images. Additionally, these experiments have affirmed that prototypes synthesized under guidance from IT neurons in later areas of the ventral stream contain more naturalistic and interpretable features than prototypes of the primary visual cortex, and therefore that neurons later in the ventral stream encode for abstractions of the natural world which are more consistent with our perceptions. Again, I'm Catherine Mueller. This project was done with contributions from Mary Burkemper and Dr. Carlos Ponce. And I would also like to acknowledge the support and contributions of the wonderful Ponce Lab members shown here. Thank you.